Hi everyone, I'm Mindy and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be creating this fun and colorful birthday card featuring some ink blending, die cutting, and paper piecing. I'll also be showing you a really easy tip that you can use with creating your paper pieced die cuts. The first thing I'm going to do is put my party mouse together. So I am going to start with a small piece of 80-pound white cardstock, and I have a piece of double-sided adhesive sheet cut to just a little bit smaller than my cardstock. I peeled off the backing and I'm placing that double-sided adhesive sheet over the cardstock. Then I'm taking the two pieces from the party mouse. These are the most solid areas, and I'm going to die cut those from that double-sided adhesive cardstock that I just created. Next, I'll take the outline piece of the mouse and I am going to be trimming this out of a few different colors of cardstock, starting with Mermaid Cardstock. Then I have black licorice, which is going to be my outline. I have ballet slippers for my ears and also the belly of the mouse. And then fog cardstock, which is going to be the main body portion of the mouse. Once I have all those pieces die cut, I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending. So when I die cut my pieces, everything pretty much stayed intact. And I left it that way and I placed it on top of a media grip mat to kind of hold my cardstock in place so it doesn't slide around. I'm adding shading to my balloon using Peacock ink. So that's one reason why I started with a lighter shade of cardstock, is so that way I could ink blend on it to add dimension. I'm going to skip the pink cardstock because those areas are pretty small, and I'm going to jump over to the fog cardstock. This one, I'm adding hippo ink using a small blending brush, and I'm going to do that to just one side of the mouse to give it that shadow layer. And this is going to look pretty messy at first, but keep in mind, a lot of these pieces are going to be punched out and added to our double-sided adhesive sheet. Now I'm taking that cardstock piece that has the double-sided adhesive on it. I flipped it over and I put some repositionable tape on the back. That's just going to help that kind of stay in place so I can peel the backing back. Otherwise, if I touch it, it's going to be hard to get my fingers off there because it's like a full sticker. Then I placed the outline portion over the top. Now, there are some additional outline pieces, so be sure to keep all of them before tossing anything. I took the backing from that double sided adhesive and I like to use that to rub over the entire area. That way, my fingers don't stick to the double sided adhesive. Then I can start layering in my pieces to create this cute little image. So I have the body that I started adding. I just poke everything out with a die pick and place it down using my tweezers. You could also pick up some of these small pieces with a pick and stick tool that has a wax tip to it. That would also work as well. So I added in all of the body and the outline. I'm bringing in the eyes and the nose, and then I'm going to work on the pink pieces for the cardstock. So we have the ears, and then there's also two pieces for the belly. So for the balloon, I actually forgot to put repositionable tape on the back of it, and you're going to see what I mean how that helps because it really wanted to stick to me and it kind of took forever to get that off of my fingers. So it does help to put something on the back of that just to kind of hold that in place. I placed the outline of the balloon over the top and then pressed that down with the backing from that double-sided tape or the double-sided adhesive sheet. Then I can finish in layering in the balloon and the pieces to my party hat. Doing a little bit of ink blending on there added so much to this image. I'm going to bring in a white gel pen and I am going to add highlights to the right hand side of my mouse just for some fun extra dimension to add to it. And also up on top for the balloon and then on the one side of my party hat. Now that that's done, I'm going to work on my background. So I'm doing quite a bit of ink blending here. I want to have a die cut panel using the Let's Celebrate backdrop, but I want to do some ink blending first. So I'm going to be using plastic flamingo. That's that bright pink that I started with up in the top corner. Then I'm coming in with a lemonade. So that's going to go down quite a ways and then overlap the pink. And then I'm going to finish off with peacock. Now, peacock can be really dark, so I'm starting pretty light handed, going all the way around and having it kind of fade off towards the center. So this piece of cardstock measures just a little bit bigger than the Let's Celebrate backdrop. I cut it to 4.5 by 5 3/4. So you can see it fits perfectly in there. I'm going to get good edges all the way around. And then I ran that through my die cut machine kind of at an angle. So that way it cut through everything perfectly. So I poked out all of those pieces with my die pick, but I'm going to create a background for behind it using those same colors. This time I started with Peacock. I seem to blend more with the first color. So I wanted to change it up by starting with Peacock first, then coming in with that same lemonade, and then finishing off with the plastic flamingo. Once I wiped up my work surface, I am going to put repositionable tape on the back of that cardstock panel, and I'm going to do some stenciling. So, kind of a tone on tone stenciling. This is the Bunting background stencil. So, it's the first layer, which is all of the flags. And I'm going to hold that down with some washi tape and then come over some of those areas once again using those same colors, but just a little bit heavier handed. And I do try to overlap the same colors like yellow on yellow and pink on pink. But if I can, I could overlap the pink with the peacock just to give it a little bit of variation and show some interest in that background. It may seem like a lot right now, but once we put everything together, it's just kind of something subtle for the background and adds to the festive nature of the card. For the second layer of the stencil, which is going to add the string that attaches your banner, I am using some white paste. I could have used a white pigment ink, but I thought the paste would stand out better. So I'm smoothing over that with a palette knife. I didn't want the starburst, so I'm just trying to avoid those areas. Now, once I'm done, I will clean up my stencil and my work surface and let that dry for a little while. It didn't take too long because it's a fairly thin coat of the paste, but now I'm going to add some splatters to the background. I started with some white paint mixed with just a little bit of water. Then I'm going to bring in this gold metallic watercolor set, add some gold sparkles to the background, and I'm also going to add black. I think black would be really nice because it ties into the black outline of my mouse. And this is just some it's black soot distress spray. And I was having trouble because my paintbrush is pretty small. It wasn't flicking onto the background. So I'm flicking it off of my die pick. I happened to look up, I didn't pay attention at first, and I got a lot of splatter in one area. So don't look away and just be really careful when you're using that method because it does add a lot of splatter to your background. I'm letting my background dry and I am going to pop up my front panel using some foam strips. This is just going to help add separation from that colorful border to that colorful background. This would be really, really cool as a shaker card if you add acetate before your foam strips. I had just removed the backing of those foam strips and placed that over the top of the background. And notice how I didn't really match up my colors. I wanted them to kind of be opposite of each other almost. And then I did off screen die cut some stars. So there's a bunch of little elements in the Let's Celebrate backdrop. And I die cut the stars out of a gold metallic cardstock and I'm adding them around the border and then also to the inside. That probably would have been easier to do before I attached it with the foam strips, but it still worked out. I just used my tweezers or my craft pick. And that gold metallic cardstock ties in nicely to the gold splatters in the background. I'm adding foam squares to the back of my party mouse, but I'm not going to attach it yet because I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do with my sentiment. I have this word happy from the Happy, Happy, Happy stamp set, and I'm stamping that on that leftover cardstock when I did my die cutting of the backdrop. So it's going to have a very light, almost ombre look in the background. The coordinating die cuts pretty close, so you don't see a lot of it, but I thought it looked really neat compared to just a stark white. I also die cut it out about 3 more times from just a plain white cardstock to help build dimension. And then as I was starting to put my card together, I realized I didn't have enough dimension. So I could have stacked more layers behind it, but I'm going to end up just using some foam squares. I used my mouse as a guide on where I wanted to place this additional sentiment, the word birthday, which is also off of that happy, happy, happy stamp set. This is something I probably should have done before even adding my splatters, but I tend to not think about my sentiment until the end. It can be kind of tricky to stamp over the top of splatter. Splatter doesn't like to be stamped on top of. So you do want to be mindful of that. Now, as I was starting to work on the assembly, here is where I needed to trim the foam squares into thin strips to really pop that up so it's past my lifted border. Now that I'm confident on where everything is going to go, I can remove the backing of the foam squares behind my party mouse and kind of tuck him over on the right hand side. Then I can remove the backing from the small foam strips behind the word happy, and I can place that right above my word birthday. I love how close that coordinating die gets to the word happy because it's not taking over my background. It's still showing off such a fun, colorful, and festive birthday card. And because I use the same colors throughout, nothing is really competing with each other. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will have all of my supplies linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. Here's another video I think you will enjoy.